So, here's a question. For any of you TNA fans out there, or even wrestling fans in general, you know, I think anybody's been asking this question lately. The question is, what is TNA thinking? Or more importantly, the question should be, what is TNA thinking? And most importantly, is Vince Russo back in TNA? Yeah. Because you look at some of the decisions they've made over the past few months, if not the past few weeks, and it makes you kind of understand why some people have tuned them out. Why somebody like Jeff Siegel is just barely hanging on. Well, you take a look at Impact this past week, and I didn't watch it, but from reading the spoilers from a few weeks ago and then watching it, it's like, it's basically like you don't know what TNA is trying to do. Let me give you a scenario. Not that long ago, a few weeks ago, maybe a little less than a month ago, you have Velvet Sky getting out of this abusive relationship with Chris Sabin, to the point that Sabin brings in this alpha female. Okay. And you got people trying to get, and you're trying to get people behind Velvet as a babyface. And yet, what do? You decide that instead of trying to maybe continue with building someone like Velvet into a babyface and help her redeem herself from the situation, you instead decide, hey, we're bringing Angelina Love back. Let's make it obvious that we're going to turn Velvet. Let's make it obvious she's coming back as a heel. And, let's make it also obvious that when Velvet shows up to see her, that she's going to end up turning freaking heel too. Yeah. Now, don't try to say, oh, well, that's not what a lot of people thought. Come on. Seriously, even for those that don't read the spoilers, you pretty much saw it coming. And you think to yourself, why would TNA do this? If you will. Why would TNA do this if you're trying to get Velvet, if you've just recently got Velvet out of an abusive relationship with a heel superstar or with a heel character in Chris Sabin, and yet you want to follow that up by turning her heel and basically say, oh, you know what that Chris Sabin do? Let's forget about it. Seriously? I mean, you think anybody that follows your product's going to seriously forget that not even that long ago, not even a month ago, less than that, Velvet Sky was a babyface going against a heel, getting out of an abusive relationship with a heel Chris Sabin, and basically actually getting a win over a giant female wrestler called the Alpha Female? You think people are going to, as if she's kind of like as if she's some kind of major superhero babyface? You think people are just going to forget that and say, oh, Velvet Sky's to being, the beautiful people version of Velvet? Yeah, how's that going to get over, folks? I mean, pretty much, Alright. Pretty much, I have nothing against the beautiful people. In fact, I will say this. The beautiful people were one of the reasons I tuned into Impact. Because I got a kick out of them. But if you're going to basically make them as they are, as they once were, despite you might give them a new entrance or a new theme song or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're going to continue, if you're just going to go like, oh, let's just leave off, let's bring the beautiful people together and leave off where they left off. Let's just make them into Valley Girls again. After what you've just done with Velvet, after what you've done, this is why people question whether or not Vince Russo is back in the saddle. We know TNA has, from numerous reports has tried to contact him, maybe for some ideas, suggestions, and all that. They did more than contact the guy. The guy is basically, in the eyes of a lot of people, he's back. And TNA, I will give them this. They're smart enough not to acknowledge it because they pretty much know if they say, oh, by the way, Vince Russo's back now writing the show, people are going to get on them. They are. I mean, and if you need any more evidence about this, in the eyes of a lot of fans, if you need any more evidence, take a look at Aries. Aries, I just spoke about Velvet, right? He was part of the storyline with Sabin. And what happens? A week or two after you have him finish up his part of being a babyface, kind of like supporter, protector of Velvet, you turn him freaking heel. And for what reason? What, so he could be on the losing end of Dixie's team? You know, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense, folks. It really doesn't. But obviously, what doesn't make sense to me, apparently in the eyes of a lot of people, is just proof enough that Vince Russo is back in TNA. That he's back with this company. Whether we like it or not. I mean, you take a look at Magnus. Yeah, it's great having a heel champion. A heel champion that's willing to do whatever it takes to win. But yeah, you're putting him in a storyline right now where he has Abyss as his freaking bodyguard under Abyss, who's not just his freaking bodyguard, but is basically under his control, under his contract, basically contracted to him now. And you're basically playing up the fact that Abyss is going to be the TNA World Heavyweight Champion before this year's out. And he's going to break away from Magnus. That's the only reason you're doing that. That's the only reason you're doing that. And again, if this isn't evidence that Russo's back, I don't know what is. I mean, I have to agree, it does seem like it. You take a look at everything they've done. You take a look at some of the things that Lockdown. People pretty much say, Russo's back. They look at some of the things that happen at Lockdown, they say, Russo's back. You know? It's like, what more? I mean, let's take a look at TNA as a whole anyway. You know, despite Vince Russo being back and all that, let's take a look at TNA as a whole anyway. You freaking start this program with Gail and Lady Tapa, and for what? Just to release Lady Tapa later on? You break them up just to release Lady Tapa? What sense does that make? And again, getting back to the beautiful people, I love the beautiful people anymore as much as anybody, but seriously, you're gonna have a Knockouts tag team again together when you have no Knockouts tag team championships to give them, and you only have one Knockouts title. What are you going to do? Steal a page from WWE and have them do what LeCool did? I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But seriously, TNA, what are you thinking? I mean, if Vince Russo's back with you full time, why don't you just say it? Just put out a public release saying, yeah, he's back with the company. But no, do you do that? No, you don't. Instead, you obviously in your minds are doing the smart thing by not saying it because you know people are going to get pissed about it. But the evidence is right there. The evidence is right there. It's staring you straight in the freaking eye. Yeah. It's staring you straight in the eye. And you know it. You know it's staring you straight in the eye. And for the life of me, I don't quite understand it. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand it. For the life of me, I don't. But all I could say is if Vince Russo's back with them. If Vince Russo's back with them, they either got a few things to do. They either got to let it be known, or they just got to stop making decisions to make it seem like he is. Because like I said, you want to bring the beautiful people back, I have no problem with that. But how many knockouts do you have? What? You have them, that's 2. You have Madison, you have Brittany, you have ODB, you have Gale, you have Taryn Tyrell coming back soon. Who else do you have? That's like 7, maybe 8 knockouts you have on a roster, and yet you're putting a tag team of the beautiful people back together? It doesn't make sense. I mean, unless you're building towards possibly finally doing Velvet Sky versus Angelina Love down the line for the Knockouts title, that's fine too. If that's the reason they're together, fine. But still, it just doesn't make sense sometimes. I mean, you're going from this to that, and you're supposed to make people forget about things? TNA, what are you thinking? What is TNA thinking, and is because of this Vince Russo back with them? You guys let me know what you think down below. I'll talk to you all later.